Are you looking for your next retro handheld? Not sure which devices are powerful enough to play PS2? Or whether you should go vertical to relive the Game Boy glory days? Which handhelds can run Stardew Valley? What's a handheld that has a widescreen display but with a vertical form factor? I'm going to introduce you to a new tool that can help answer all of your questions. The Retro Device Finder is a wide-ranging filter set powered by the Handheld database at retrodoc.com. I'll show you how it works, and then we'll look at 4 test cases to see the Finder in action. This is going to be fun. If you want to give the Retro Device Finder a spin, point your browser to retrodoc.com/finder. Here at the start of 2025, this tool is brand new and I'd consider it to be in beta. Let's call this version 0.5. There are some new additions in the works right now thanks to some feedback from the community, but if there's something else you want to see here, just drop a comment below. The site's database includes specs on more than 250 retro devices from recent years. Soon I'll be adding classic handheld systems from Nintendo, Sony, Neo Geo, and others. It also works on mobile devices. Just tap the Filters button to select your options, then tap Show at the bottom to see the results. That number on the button will tell you in real time how many devices fit your criteria. If you'd like to remove a filter, scroll horizontally along the top and tap on a tag to remove it. So here we are in the device finder, and you can see all the most recent devices that are now available up here at the top. These are ordered from newest to oldest. Devices that have been announced, you might find them in the Handhelds database, but if they're still listed as forthcoming, then they won't show here. We're searching for devices that are currently available for you to order. Let's look at our list of filters here. At the top, we can search by a device name keyword, right? So if we want to see all the Retroid devices at a glance, we can just search Retroid, and there they all are. So to help you find what you're looking for, first consider how much money you want to spend. We have 4 different price tiers here. Budget devices under $100, that mid-tier $100 to $200. You've got a little bit more saved up. You can get more power with a device up to $400, and then those big top tier, really powerful devices, mostly Windows handhelds, are going to be over $400. Are you looking for a device that has a horizontal form factor, like the RG406H right here? Or maybe you just want a vertical device, something like the Ioneo Pocket DMG. These are verticals, right? The old Game Boy style. Or maybe we can select devices that are just clamshell devices, like the Game Boy Advance SP. Here we have the brand new Mii Flip, fits that bill. If you don't want to filter by any of these, of course, you just leave them blank. But let's keep going here. We can choose a specific operating system if you want a device specifically that runs Android, Linux, or Windows. You can choose an aspect ratio for your screen. If it's really important to you that you specifically want a particular brand, if you're looking for an Anbernic, if you're looking for a Powkitty, you can filter by brand here and see all the options that we have in the database. Or if you want something with a specific chipset, you can choose one here. Like, let's say I want to see all the Unisoc T618 devices. We can go here and find, well, there's 7 T618 devices, add this to our filter, and there they all are. All these use the same chip. Down below chipset is settings for our screen. We can add filter by a display class. This is not necessarily the exact size of the display. Something, for example, like a 2.8-inch display on the RG28XX is classified as a 3-inch screen. So it's approximate, these are rounded off. If you want to get an exact screen size, you can use the slider here. We can go anywhere from, I think the smallest one in the database right now is the Fun Key at 1.5 inches. Let's see if we can restrict it here. So here's all of our micro devices here, from 1.5 to 2.2 inches. There's a ton of 3.5-inch screens, so let's go between 1 and 3 inches. These are little handhelds. There, we've got them all showing up right there. We can choose resolution if we specifically want a 640 by 480 device. We can add that and restrict our filter set even further. If I know I want specifically an OLED screen, I can filter by all the OLEDs. Or if I know my device has to have a touchscreen, then I can turn the filter on here. Pixels per inch, we'll talk in one of our case studies about pixel density, but here I can move these sliders to restrict the PPI. Wi-Fi connectivity, Bluetooth. Video out is also an option. Right now, this is organized by what type of port for video out. So if you want a mini HDMI connection, well, there's 9 devices here in my filter set. Under video out, we can find audio. If you have to have a 3.5 millimeter audio jack, you can select that here. Some devices, believe it or not, don't come with one. And then under controls, we can choose a particular kind of thumbstick, a dual or just a single left analog thumbstick. And if we want them to be Hall effect or not, that's a newer technology that we'll find on some mid-tier and higher end devices. Hall effect thumbsticks. Also shoulders and triggers. If you know you want an analog stick on top or a D-pad on top, you can filter your results here. And then here's the big show, game performance down here. If there are particular systems that you want to be able to emulate on your device, you can select those here. You'll notice as we mouse over here, the left column is green, the right column is yellow. Here with the green toggles, this is going to give you good or great performance for that system. Yellow will give you limited performance for that system. That system will be able to play some games in the catalog, but not all of them. There might be some additional tweaks that are required to get some of these games running, if they'll run at all. But it might be helpful. We'll see in some of our case studies how it might be helpful to look at just one of these or to consider devices that fall into either category. Any of the filters that you see here that use these tags allow for multiple selections. So I can select Dreamcast, but then I can also select Dreamcast Limited, and this will give me devices that meet either performance tier. And devices that show up here on the right will automatically refresh based on whatever filters I have chosen, with the newest releases at the top. Click on a handheld to see its entry with full specs, performance metrics, plus video reviews from the retro gaming community. Now, if you've narrowed things down too far and you don't have enough results, you can expand your options by just removing one of the filters. I can click on it either here in the sidebar where I selected it, or I can click on one of the tags up here at the top. And as we start removing filters, you can see we'll get more options added here. Dreamcast for under $100 is kind of a tall order these days. So let's remove that. We'll get a whole lot more options. Click Reset All here at the top to start over. As I said, you can use this search field if you're looking for something specific and you know part of the device name. Like I'm looking for, let's say, the RG34XX. I can get that to come up right here. And this will only show results within your other active filters. But also note that this search field is currently keyed to search only in the device's name. If you want to search other fields, come up here to the main site search instead. For example, if I want to see all devices that use a Snapdragon chip, I can just enter Snapdragon here. And once I scroll down past these news stories that mention the Snapdragon, I'm going to start to see devices. The Odin 2 Portal, Retroid Pocket 5, Retroid Pocket Mini, all of these use the Snapdragon chip. And so Snapdragon is going to appear in their entry. So now that you know your way around the device finder, we're going to look at 4 different case studies to see how you might use this tool to find what you're looking for. Our first candidate is Casey, who wants a basic and capable handheld to relive the games of his childhood. NES, SNES, Genesis, PlayStation, Nintendo 64, and more. Casey has around $100 to spend, and he wants to know what's going to give him the most emulation power. And he especially wants a really good screen if he can get it, so that he can upscale those classic systems to look great with integer scaling. Casey's working within a budget, so we're going to start here with devices that are under $100. He knows he wants to play N64, so we'll come down here and make sure that we choose N64 Green, which is good or great performance. Back up to the top, and these 2 filters leave us with just 3 devices to choose from. If Casey likes that Sega-style dish D-pad, he might want to check out the GKD Bubble, which hit the market in late 2024. But these 2 Retroid devices are also great picks. If Casey sees himself playing a lot of 2D platformers, the Retroid Pocket 2S is excellent with the D-pad here in the top position, whereas the 2 Plus has the analog stick in the top position. In fact, if Casey already knows he wants a D-pad-centric device, he can also add this filter down here under Controls, D-pad on top, and that's going to give us just these two options. But if he's thinking of more 3D games like kart racers, Spyro the Dragon, Crash Bandicoot, having the analog stick in the top position will be more comfortable for long play sessions. So in that case, the RP2 Plus is the one to get. This device can be found for under $100, and it will emulate what he's looking for. But let's take a step back here. Maybe N64 isn't really that big of a priority for Casey. Maybe he'd be okay with a device that is powerful enough to play some occasional N64 games, but not the whole catalog. So in addition to N64, let's go back down here and add N64 Limited. And this adds a whole bunch of devices that he has to choose from. There's over 50 on the list now. So can we narrow it down? Well, Casey has decided he wants a vertical handheld, something reminiscent of the original Game Boy and Game Boy Color. So we're going to choose the vertical feature, and that just cut our choices down to 20. Now remember, the other thing on Casey's wish list, a really good screen. Now, of course, not every screen is created equal. There are some beautiful displays with good brightness and color saturation that he should be on the lookout for as he's doing his research and watching reviews. But what the Retro Device Finder can do is help him find screens with a higher than average resolution. So let's go back down here to our screen section. All the options that we have are between 3 and 4 inches. That's already set. We're going to focus on this range slider, pixels per inch. The higher the PPI, the greater the clarity, and the potential for upscaling retro games in whole increments. That's integer scaling. 2x, 3x, or 4x will look better than 3.32x, right? Something that's not even. That's the benefit of a device with a high pixel density. Now, most devices on the market today have a pixel density between 200 and 300 PPI. So let's slide this up and make 300 the minimum. That'll put us on the higher end of the scale. We'll jump back up to the top, and now there's just 2 devices left that have a high pixel density. Both of these are from late 2024, actually. The RGB20 Pro is a unique handheld with a small screen sitting on top of a body the size of a large mobile phone, including analog sticks. The Trim UI brick actually has the exact same screen size and resolution, but it's about 25% shorter and obviously doesn't have the analog sticks. At this point, Casey can click through and read all the specs on these devices and also watch some reviews right here on the site. If he's okay without analog sticks, I think he's going to be really happy with the Trim UI brick. Our next case study is April, who wants to start playing on a dedicated handheld instead of her phone. She's heard that she can play most all of her mobile games, including Stardew Valley, in addition to her childhood favorites from the Nintendo DS or Game Boy Advance. So she wants to do some native Android gaming as well as some emulation. She'd like to have a touchscreen like her phone has, and preferably let's keep it to $200 or less. There's a couple ways we could go here with April. Let's start first with just Android devices. That's going to give her access to the Google Play Store, as well as the ability to sideload APKs for any apps that she can't find there. Because she wants to stay under $200, we're also going to select these first 2 price tiers. So these are all the Android devices that are at $200 and under. We can narrow this down further with April's performance needs. She wants something that can play DS and Game Boy Advance. Now, here's a pro tip. Usually we're safe just selecting the more demanding system, since most anything that can handle DS emulation isn't going to have a problem at all with GBA. So let's keep DS, and we'll add one more device with DS Limited. April has a lot of good options for what she wants. To narrow it down further, we know she's used to playing games on her phone in a wider aspect ratio. So let's limit our remaining results to 16:9. And she says she wants a touchscreen for the full Android experience. Let's add the touchscreen. Now we're down to these 10 devices. That clamshell is pretty cute, but if April spends much time looking into the Retroid Pocket Flip, she's going to find out that they aren't sold anymore. So let's choose the horizontal form factor to take it off the list. If she really wants one, she could find it on the secondary market. Now, maybe April wants to stay close to something about the size of a large phone, and not something closer to a Nintendo Switch. So to just get smaller devices, let's limit the screen size to 5 inches or less. And there we go. One of the Retroid Pocket devices is going to check all of April's boxes. There's also the CB408 or the Anbernic RG505, which uses the same processor as the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus. Looking at all of these here, since it's still within her $2 budget, the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro is going to be the newest and the most powerful. Let's click on the device to learn more about it, see the color options, the emulation performance. This device is going to be good not only at DS, but also PSP, some GameCube and Wii, and even some 3DS. And then once again, down here below the full specs, April can watch some YouTube reviews to learn more. And hey, if she uses these shop buttons, she can help support RetroDock when she buys it. Now, April found what she was looking for on the Android side, but it's worth saying we can get Stardew Valley and some other modern classics running on certain Linux handhelds too. This and more than 800 other games are accessible through a tool called Portmaster. You can check out the complete list at portmaster.games. Some of these are free to play and can be downloaded straight onto your device, while others will require you to provide certain files from a retail version that you've purchased. Not every device will run Portmaster though. Let's go back to the device finder and reset. Then we're going to go all the way down to the bottom under Performance and use this filter to find all the supported Portmaster devices. Usually Portmaster support is available through one or more custom firmware packages and not necessarily right out of the box, so this might require a little more work after you get your device, unless you buy something that has ArcOS or Newly or another custom firmware from the community already pre-installed. It's also worth noting that not every Portmaster game will run on every chipset, so if there are specific must-have games, select the device on the Portmaster website to see which games are verified compatible. So for example, if I'm looking at the XU10, 810 games are compatible, and by adding that filter, I've subtracted a few. Now I can go and look for Stardew Valley. And there it is. So back on the Finder, in addition to Portmaster, let's add DS back in here, as well as looking for a horizontal device with a 16:9 aspect ratio and a screen no more than 5 inches. There are 4 systems that fit the bill. If April is okay with limited DS emulation, we can also add that, which adds my favorite Portmaster device, the TrimUI Smart Pro. And we can confirm on the Portmaster website by going to Devices and selecting TrimUI Smart Pro. Lower list of supported titles here, 600 out of the 830 some. But if we search for Stardew, yep, Stardew Valley is supported by Portmaster on the TrimUI Smart Pro with all firmwares. We'll just need to have the compatibility version of the game, which is available from both Steam and GOG. So April definitely has options. She can find an inexpensive Linux device with Portmaster compatibility, plus enough power to emulate some DS games. Or she can spend a little more and get a device with the full Android experience she might be used to, knowing that her Play Store purchases that she's already made on her phone are going to transfer right over to her new Retroid. Our third case study is a little different one. This is Mikey. Mikey is 20-something and looking to see what all this retro gaming fuss is about. He's heard great things about the PS2 and PS3 libraries, and he thinks he'll be able to get a cheap handheld to try out these games. After all, the PS2 is over 20 years old, right? So he wants PS2 gaming for under $100. He doesn't want a tiny device, at least a 4-inch screen, and he wants something with modern controls, at least stacked shoulder buttons and triggers. So what are the results? Under $100, PS2, none. PS2 is not here. Here at the start of 2025, there are no PS2 performant devices at under $100. If we select under 100, PS2 goes away as an option, or if we start over and select PS2 first, well, then you see under $100 goes away. The Finder has shown Mikey that what he wants is far too unrealistic for what he's willing to pay. Even if we add just limited PS2 performance, nope, there's nothing under $100. So now if Mikey moves up a price tier, he'll start to find some options. But on many of these handhelds, PS2 performance is going to be hit or miss. That's what the limited is all about. Expect some games to run just fine, others to struggle, and others to be just unplayable. If Mikey wants a PS2 in his pocket, he'll have much better options if he saves his money and looks for something a little more expensive like the Retroid Pocket 5, the Pocket Mini, or the Odin 2. And of course, PS3 emulation just isn't there yet. So let's reset all, jump down here and select PS3 or PS3 Limited, and there are no options below $400. To get what he really wants, Mikey's gonna need a more modern gaming device, like a Steam Deck or a Windows handheld. That puts him firmly in the over 400 category. So Mikey, once you've saved your nickels, here are all your options. You can also look for one of these used or refurbished or on an open box deal at Best Buy. Speaking of top-tier elite gaming machines, our fourth and final case study is Master Splinter, an elite gamer if ever there was one. The old sensei has been around the block a few times and has some money to spend to really get the most out of his handheld gaming. He wants the best of the best, and let's be honest, he deserves it. He wants a modern OLED screen, Hall effect thumbsticks and analog triggers, good Wi-Fi connectivity for those Call of Duty sessions with the boys, and enough power not only to play modern Windows games, but also to emulate basically everything out there. We're talking top shelf here. As we go to the device finder, let's actually start with emulation. Nintendo Switch and PS3 are basically the toughest to emulate most of their libraries with full and stable performance. If a handheld can reach green status on these, it can basically emulate everything older. Right now, that gives us 20 devices. Well, we can narrow this down further. Splinter doesn't want a clamshell like the Aya Neo Flip, so let's choose horizontal. And he wants at least an 8-inch screen for his aging eyes. So let's go down here to the screen size and put the minimum at 8. He also wants touchscreen capability. Now we're down to just 4 devices, but we lost the OLED options. OLED no longer shows up under my screen options. I guess they don't make them that big yet, and so we're going to have to take our screen size down to 7 inches, and then we'll see OLED pops back up. In fact, there's just one. It's the One X-Fly F1 Pro. This is a newer Windows device that is powered by AMD's Ryzen 7 AI 370 processor. So it's a bit of a compromise to get a 7-inch screen instead of an 8, but we didn't hit Splinter's desire for Hall effect sticks and triggers. That's something that the F1 Pro doesn't have. If that's a must-have, we're going to need to cancel some filters to get more options again. What's constraining us most here is actually the OLED option. As of the start of 2025, we can have an OLED handheld without Hall sensing controls, or Hall sensing controls with a standard IPS display. Until someone makes the ultimate device that has both, Splinter is going to have to choose which one is more important to him. Here are the current options for Windows handhelds that employ Hall effect controls. So that's 4 different case studies of how you might use the Retro Device Finder to help you find the handheld that's just right for you. I hope it's helpful as you search out your next device. Drop a comment if you have suggestions for the site or RetroDoc's brand new channel here on YouTube. And if you do use the Finder to pick a handheld, I'd love to hear what you found. Thanks for watching, keep gaming, and I'll see you in the next one.